The audio you're about to hear was recorded in Anchor. Learn more at anchor.fm.
Yo, what's up everybody? What it do? It's me, Ed Carbajal, your favorite ball bag, mixed martial arts analyst for frontproofmedia.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Carbazal and at theblogboardjungle.com. So, lots of stuff happened today. What a Wednesday. Obviously I got your Ultimate Fighter 26 season recap for you with the ladies fighting. But big news day today, so there's a lot of stuff to get to. There's stuff happening this weekend. You got David Branch and Luke Rockhold headlining the UFC Pittsburgh card for the UFC Fight Night, nice and free on FS1 for us. Hopefully they don't show any golf to ruin the evening. And we also got some boxing, Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, whatever the other G is, versus Saul Canelo. So lots of stuff to get to. I got a guest to interview about the Triple G Canelo fight. My old colleague and associate in the online publishing industry, Daniel Zaldivar of Z-Boxing News. And yeah, so let's get to it. Lots of stuff happened today. Alright, so yes, a big USADA day for the UFC. Obviously by now you heard about John Jones' B sample. The B sample came back positive for the Turinabol. So as a result, the UFC, the California State Athletic Commission overturned the fight between Daniel Cormier from UFC 214, and as a result of that, the title is stripped and goes back to DC. Also in the UFC, the Ultimate Fighter Season 25 winner Jesse Taylor, unfortunately also got flagged by USADA, so he's out of his upcoming match that he had in November. He was supposed to have his first fight, so that kind of sucks for him that he was on the season for redemption. If you remember, when he was initially on the Ultimate Fighter, he got removed because he acted up after winning, and he got drunk and was celebrating his newfound success, so he thought, and the UFC said we can't have that behavior, and they got rid of him. So he does this whole redemption season, and then this happens, and now he's probably out again, and depending on the results, he'll probably have to suffer some type of penalty. So along with John Jones' title getting stripped, now we're looking at the 4-year ban from the sport. I mean, he sat out 2 years for the first offense, and now it's a 4-year ban, and I don't think they're going to show him any leniency. Obviously, they said due process has to happen, but it doesn't look like anybody's going to wait on much from him, considering how fast the State Athletic Commission handed down their sentence and the UFC stripped him of the title. So, what else is there? I think the 4 years are coming, so really sucks for both these guys, both Jesse Taylor and John Jones. Sucks for us as the fans that like watching them fight, and we're looking forward to their fights, but it sucks for them because it's not an easy sport, and there's a lot of hard work and sacrifice that goes into preparing for the fights that they fight, and they have fights that they had, only to have something like this come out and ruin. Like John Jones's legacy is obviously ruined. I say it sucks because it's almost like you're sad for them, but it's like you can't be, because it's likely something they did to themselves. You know what I mean? So it's like a double-edged. It's enough bad news on that for today. Let's move on to other stuff. Ultimate Fighter, we got the ladies coming up, and this weekend's UFC Fight Night in Pittsburgh. Luke Rockhold versus David Branch to make their way towards the middleweight title. Alright, so big fight weekend coming up. UFC Fight Night, Luke Rockhold versus David Branch. Middleweight division. Obviously, Michael Bisping and George St. Pierre have to do their thing at UFC 217 in November, and Robert Whittaker is waiting in line for the winner of that. And for between Luke Rockhold and David Branch, they also want to get back there. Luke Rockhold probably more so than David Branch, only because he lost to Bisping, and he probably wants to avenge that loss. So let's say Bisping loses. I'm pretty sure that fight still has to happen if Bisping is still trying to fight, after November. Anyway, so for the main event, Luke Rockhold and David Branch, Luke Rockhold seems to be the favorite. I think it's only because of the consensus of people that are being asked are hardcore UFC fans. My pick for that fight is David Branch. David Branch was a 2-division champion over at World Series of Fighting. Say what you will. Obviously, everybody's got their promotional opinions about promotions. The UFC nut huggers will hug the nuts of the UFC forever and always. But David Branch put in a lot of work. I mean, he not only won the 2 titles in his light heavyweight and middleweight division over there, but defended them against solid dudes, like really solid dudes. Vinny Magalhaes, Lewis Taylor. I was at that. I covered that for Front Proof Media. When World Series of Fighting did their New Year's Eve show, that's the last time David Branch fought in that promotion before he got signed to the UFC. I know his first fight in the UFC wasn't impressive, or it went to a decision in his favor, but he's a really intelligent, really well-rounded fighter. So I got him picked to win any way he wants, in all honesty. I mean, if it goes to a decision, Luke Rockhold no slouch, so I could see it going into a decision in Branch's favor only for that reason. But Branch is calling for a finish, and I see him getting a finish. So, that being said, that's my pick for the main event. There's a lot of good fights on that card. One of them got a change today. I don't know if you guys heard about it. Thiago Alves is off the card. He was supposed to fight Mike Perry, but they quickly got Mike Perry a replacement. A gentleman by the last name of Reyes. I'm sorry I don't have his first name. Obviously, with all the news going on today in the UFC, that was one of the lower profile things that came out. So long as they're moving forward with that event, can't let the bad news ruin the future of the sport of mixed martial arts. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a great event. Free on Fox Sports. They're in Pittsburgh, East Coast time, so that means it starts nice and early. I get to watch it and get to sleep at a decent hour. I'm looking forward to it. And then I might even be able to watch the boxing that's happening, which is the Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo, Triple G versus Canelo, September 16th, also on Saturday, pay-per-view time. Jesse, one of our listeners. Jesse, I know you sent in that song when you called in, that you called Let's Go Canelo. So I'm going to use that at the end of this to carry us out. But before I do that, got to get to some TUF 26 recap real quick. All right, so now we get to the ladies, episode 3 of The Ultimate Fighter. Really quick, Ariel Beck and Montana Stewart fought in this episode. It's hard to recap all the drama. In all honesty, I don't have any interest in I don't like the reality show format for anything. Nothing. I don't like reality TV. I think it's on its way out, that format. I say it every week. I think the Tuesday Night Contender Series is gonna overtake The Ultimate Fighter. But hopefully not before this season. So anyway, obviously if you haven't seen it, Ariel Beck and Montana Stewart went at it. Only went one round. Montana Stewart took the win in the first round with a Darce choke. That puts Team Gaethje two wins over the one of over Alvarez's team. So Lauren Murphy's up next week against that Nico Montayo, and Lauren Murphy's already a vet, so she's probably the favorite to win. But yeah, it was a big fight. They both fought well, obviously. Credit to Ariel Beck. She when that choke was locked in, she held out, I think, longer than most people would have, and that was deep. I mean, you could literally see. I was actually, when she was adjusting, I was like, oh, you have to get the choking arm deeper. And then they showed the shot of how deep she had her choking arm in for the Darcets underneath the armpit and across the neck. You clasp your hands behind the neck when you're applying the choke, and her wrist was pretty much all the way out from the choking hand that was under the arm. So it couldn't have been any tighter. So Beck definitely held out as long as she could. Congratulations to her. So that's 3 fights in. Next week, again, the 2 ladies I mentioned. And that's what we got for the Ultimate Fighter. I can't say it was, the crying and the stuff like that, they all have my sympathies and everything. And I think their emotions, I'm not trying to sound like I'm a chauvinistic bastard. But, because in all honesty, I think women fight harder and tougher than the guys do because they have all those raw emotions in them. So when they get upset like that, I don't like to see a woman cry. It bothers me. It tugs at my heartstrings or whatever you want to call it. So, all right. Like I said, I do have a guest, an interview with Daniel Zaldivar. We talk about the big boxing for this weekend, Triple G versus Canelo. Here you go. Mr. Daniel Zaldivar of Z-Boxing News. Talking to Danny Z of Z-Boxing News. So what's going on, man? We got to talk. We got a big, as 2 Mexicans and fight fans, we got a big weekend coming up.
Yeah, you talk about, as close of a 50-50 fight as you could get. Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Triple G Golovkin is probably going to be your best bet to catch a 50-50 fight. Honestly, even before this fight on Saturday, we've had, in terms of the sport of boxing and fights, this year's been pretty good. I don't think I can remember, at least in recent memory, a year that produced such, good competitive fights throughout the weight divisions.
Definitely, man. Throughout the year, you're right. Just for folks that don't know, Daniel Zaldivar and I have been colleagues in this online combat sports writing game for a long time, since Page 2 Sports. I forget how long, forget how many years ago that was already. It seems like yesterday. But
a couple of years.
But me and you have been writing about fights for a while, and as far as my boxing knowledge, my disconnect, I always talk about it when I talk with the guys from Front Proof, how I kind of threw my hands in the air after Lennox Lewis lost to Klitschko back in I don't even remember the year, 2003. But I always mentioned
early
that
2000.
to you, and you've always been my connection to boxing, or what kind of got me back into it. So I figured who better to talk to than Daniel Zaldivar about September 16th, Mexican Independence Day. But
Mexican Independence Day.
Yeah. So as far as like you said, this year, I think for me, as a kind of an outsider looking in, the fanfare started building up for boxing again a lot after the what's his name, Anthony Joshua and Klitschko, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on that. That fight a couple months ago, that was, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, whether it was live or after, but that was that brought people back to the days of the 90s, 80s, or just the 90s, of course, with Mike Tyson and all those guys, the heavyweights. Because if you look at boxing and even MMA, but boxing being with the the historical past that it has, heavyweight boxers are looked at as more, I don't want to use the word icons, but they're looked at as more, appealing, because guys like Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, and all those guys, Evander Holyfield, and all those guys back in the day, they put heavyweight boxing on the map, and, they produced all these competitive fights. And Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko, not only did they fight in front of 90,000 people at Wembley Stadium in London, but, they had so much hype behind them because both of these guys, like Klitschko is like 40 years old, but he's been dominant. He's been dominating that heavyweight division since like 2004. Like he's never lost pretty much. Like he only has a couple losses, but he's been dominating for like 10, 12 years. And he's like what? He's like 6'6", 6'7". You know, he's ripped. He's really muscular. And Anthony Joshua is like the same height, and he's a ripped guy. So that was a 50-50 fight, and they were two heavyweights. And like I said, I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or any boxing fans.
I did. I saw it after. Yeah.
But both men went down throughout the fight.
Yeah.
Like each one of them knocked each other down at least once, and it was, that fight couldn't have went any better in terms of helping the sport of boxing. It really couldn't have.
Yeah.
Like there's these big guys, and then knockouts come. That was great. That was like
it was great. It was great. I actually watched it with my dad after the fact, and I told you that's my roots to boxing. Since I was a kid, he's the one that had me and my brother watching boxing with him when he would get home from a long day's work. But so like if fanfare for me started building up as far as my opinion from what I saw with that fight, and then obviously we had the circus couple of weeks ago with Mayweather and McGregor, and I know De La Hoya was a little vocal about like how it would hurt boxing, but I actually think it's kept people interested long enough to want to see this weekend's fight coming up. Do you think that's fair to say, or?
I think that's fair. I mean, I can understand Oscar De La Hoya's grudge that he's holding, if you could call it that, because it does. There is. I'm sure there's quite a bit of people who bought Mayweather McGregor and aren't going to buy Canelo Triple G, who were planning on buying Canelo Triple G until Mayweather McGregor got announced, because Mayweather McGregor I think got announced after Canelo Triple G. Mm-hmm. And like it's not, it's paying for pay-per-views, especially for Mayweather McGregor, which was $100. It's not cheap. People, they focus on their money, they budget. It's people's money at the end of the day, and the pay-per-view, like the way of pay-per-view, how it's working now, especially with online streaming, this type of Netflix and stuff, the game is changing. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be on Fight TV, actually.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's good, though.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, and, the landscape is changing, and I mean, that's another topic for later on, but in terms of Oscar De La Hoya, I could see why, he'd be irritated, because as a businessman, Mayweather McGregor did take away a lot of people who were going to buy Canelo Triple G, who instead bought Mayweather McGregor, and they're just like, oh, well, which one do I want to see more? I'm going to buy this one. I don't want to spend, $150, $200 in the span of 2 months on fights. There's people who just don't think it's worth it, even though the fight this Saturday is totally worth it. And I don't think it's not going to be $100. That's probably going to be $60, $70, which is still, a bit of dough, but Oscar De La Hoya, like, if you're going about it the wrong way by tweeting out F this, F that, F you, Mayweather McGregor, and saying, is he going about it the wrong way? Yeah, as a businessman, he is, and professionalism, it doesn't hurt to just go on interviews and say, like they shouldn't be boxing, how he's expressed his displeasure, but, it is what it is. It's just the politics in the sport. Everybody has bad blood, and it is what it is. But like you said, I think there is a group of people who watch Mayweather McGregor who are most likely going to buy Canelo Triple G, because they're just like, hey man, I haven't watched boxing in a while, and I heard about this Canelo Triple G thing because they watched Mayweather McGregor, which is a boxing fight. And I honestly think that Mayweather McGregor lived up to the hype that it needed to, because, Mayweather McGregor did, his own thing, and he landed some shots when some people like Max Kellerman of HBO said he wouldn't land anything, and the fight ended in a stoppage, and like, especially to the casual fan, people love to see knockouts. They love to see stoppages, TKOs, and stuff like that. So in that regard, I think it did what it needed to do, regardless of it was a guy who came in with an 0-0 record in terms of boxing, fighting a guy who's arguably one of the best, if not the best boxers of the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but I mean, just because of those casuals for boxing, those casual boxing fans, whether they, I mean, if they're Conor McGregor fans and they just came from MMA or just simply for the hype of watching one of, haters that might have want to see one or the other boxer lose, I think those numbers, those fans are the ones that are still hanging around and probably interested. I mean, they're doing good advertising for Canelo Triple G too. I actually saw an interesting ad last night where they had, like they were showing like legends and stuff like that. And De La Hoya was actually in it. They had all the older boxers like watching them two get in the ring. It was a pretty cool ad. Have you seen that? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was they filmed that like a month or two ago, I think, and because I remember because there was I had seen on social media that there was a lot of legends, like Roberto Duran and some of those guys, like Hitman Hearns and stuff like that. They were out in LA, and then I saw, after I did some digging, that they were there because they were filming a little vignette commercial with Canelo and Triple G, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And I think I liked the commercial. I thought it was cool, like a little throwback. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool commercial.
Yeah, actually, like I said, it was yesterday. I only saw it for the first time, but it was on a lot. I mean, and my brother's actually he watched the Mayweather-McGregor. He and I watched it together, and then I know it's actually his birthday. Happy birthday, Mark. He listens to this
Happy
podcast.
Birthday.
But he's gonna watch that too for his birthday with his girlfriend. They're gonna get together and watch the fight. So I'm pretty sure he's going for Canelo. I think a lot of people are going for Canelo that I know. I don't know. What's your prediction? I mean, do you have, as far as like who you want to win or who you think is going to win? Like as far as if you were to be objective and not be all like tell me who you want to win and who you think is going to win. And if it's the same guy, obviously, then it's just one answer.
Well, I've been going. I just had a conversation with somebody about this earlier today. I've been going back and forth on who I think is going to win for the last couple of weeks. Like, because like on my spare time or, when I get home or something, like I'll watch previous fights of both fighters. And, I'll kind of watch them like, okay, this, and that. And like one day I'll say Triple G is going to take it. The next day I'll read some stuff or I'll look at some stuff and be like, you know what? I think Canelo's going to pull it out. I keep going back and forth, and I think that should just show people. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a hotshot, big time reporter out there, but like I feel like I know the sport pretty well, and I've covered it the last few years and written about it for the last few years. Not just about the mainstream fighters, but the smaller name fighters who aren't really mainstream known.
I mean, you go out in LA and you watch the local guys fight almost every Friday night, right?
Right. Yeah, the Golden Boy Promotions puts on an event called LA Fight Club a couple Fridays a month, so that's pretty cool. That's where they get their prospects up, so that's a cool event. But like, just from my opinion, if I'm going back and forth like that, like from day to day, I think that just shows people how close of a matchup, how competitive this fight will be. If you ask me today, I think Triple G is going to take it. The reason why today, what I'm thinking is because I think just Triple G has fought the bigger guys his whole career. The biggest guy that Canelo has fought in his career, he just fought him in his last fight, which was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who's a big guy. He fights like at 168, and he walks around probably like 190, 200 pounds, I'm assuming. And Chavez Jr. is actually bigger than Triple G. But, you know, that fight wasn't competitive. Canelo toyed with him the entire 12 rounds, like, you know, and Triple G has consistently fought big middleweights. Like, he's fought middleweights, and Canelo, before this last fight, has fought guys like Miguel Cotto, you know, Floyd Mayweather. He lost to Floyd Mayweather, but, you know, Floyd Mayweather is not, in terms of sizing, is not the same size as Triple G. You know, there's a huge difference there. You know, that's why, you know, going off track a little bit. That's why I don't understand the people who say, "Oh, how come Mayweather doesn't fight Triple G? Like, he's scared or something." Like, are you serious? Like, Mayweather is a small guy. Like, just because he's like one of the best boxers in the world doesn't mean like he's gonna move up to fight a guy who's fought at 12 pounds above him, who's been like it. It's just, but you know, I get it. It's just because people want to see him lose, and Triple G has been marketed well. So, but, you know,
I always think that's I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think that's always an odd thing for people to say, that somebody that fights for a living is actually scared to fight someone else that does the same thing for a living. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I always think that's a dumb comment. I mean, maybe they're afraid of losing something financially, or there's a business aspect to it. That I could see them being afraid of, but I don't think any of these guys are afraid to fight each other.
No, I don't think so either. Because I mean, it just comes to the point where, like, I get there's some fighters out there that they'll just keep moving up and up and up because they're just like, oh well, you know, I'll fight anybody, you know. Like look at De La Hoya when he fought. Like, yeah, he's looked at as one of the best boxers there ever was, and, you know, he made a lot of money. He was a big draw for a lot of years. But when he moved, he started like at, you know, 140 or 147 or something, and as he kept moving up, he ended up moving up to middleweight, and he got knocked out by Bernard Hopkins. And he's even said in past interviews, he was just like, yeah, he's like, you know, I just wanted to show people that I was down to fight anybody, and I moved up. He was like, but Bernard was way bigger than me, you know, like, you know, Bernard fought all these bigger guys for most of his career. He's like, so he was used to their power, to their size, you know, and I was a smaller guy coming up from, you know, 150 pounds, 147, 154 and stuff like that. So there's a difference there, you know, like Triple G, he's been knocking these guys out and stuff like that, but like he's fought the physically bigger guys his entire life. And Canelo, in terms of sizing, you know, in terms of talent, boxing skills, Canelo might have fought the better boxers throughout his career in terms of just looking at boxing skills. But in terms, you know, it doesn't mean that Triple G, just because he hasn't fought guys who don't have the same type of talent that Canelo's opponents have had, doesn't mean that he's not just as good. You know, it's kind of like there's pros and cons to it, and it's a tough fight to pick, man. It's really tough.
It is, and it seems like a really close fight, especially because this is one that we're not being made to wait for. Like, there's like Triple G and Canelo have been the names in even the casual boxing fans' mouths, that people that don't know anything, when they talk about a match they'd like to see, those two names always came up. So, and we're finally getting it. And I think, like you said, it's hard to call. It seems closely contested. I was actually surprised that you said Triple G, because I thought you were going to go Canelo. But then that's why I added to my question, you know, who you want to win and who you think is going to win. So, you know, because obviously with the whole, you know, we Mexicans get a little excited on September 16th, so we tend to jump into the whole thematic thing with the fanfare and want Canelo to win.
Of course.
Actually, one of the listeners, I'm going to play it at the end of this podcast, actually, when I finally get it together. But one of the listeners, he's got his own anchor station on the Anchor app called Jesse and Music. His name's Jesse. He wrote a song that I'm going to add to the end of it, and it's called it's all his guitar playing, but it's called Let's Go Canelo. So to close out the episode, I'm going to play that just for him, because he calls in a lot and interacts a lot. He's a big listener, so I figured I'd give him the exposure too. Yeah, but you're going Triple G. I mean, will you still be going Triple G come like Saturday when the fight's on?
You know what? If I tell you yes or no, I'd be lying to you, because I don't know.
You don't know, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I really don't, because you know I think in terms of boxing skills, Canelo is the better boxer, but of course Triple G has more power. And
isn't he like a high output guy too?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a tough one, man, because you say one guy's better at this, but then the other guy's better at this, which could overcome the other's talent. You know, it's vice versa, and you know that's the thing. Like, you know, Canelo could pull it off. That's why I like that you asked me, who do you want to win and who do you think is going to win?
Yeah.
Today, I think Triple G is going to win. But who I want to win? I mean, yeah, being, you know, Mexican-American, I want Canelo to win, but not just because of that. But also, if you look at it in terms of preserving the sport and in the business sense, Canelo is like 9 years or whatever. I think Canelo's 27 and Triple G's 35. So in terms of a business aspect and preserving the sport, I'm going Canelo, because he's going to keep the sport alive a lot longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in combat sports, I mean, usually, I don't want to say more times than not, I should say, the younger guy, you know, does win, just because he's of the athleticism stuff. I mean, especially in the fight game, those fights stay in their bodies. Especially, I think De La Hoya talked about it once when he was talking about, you know, retirement, how you know, starting so young just added more years of you know, the long-term damage that comes with combat sports as a whole. I mean, both sports, MMA and boxing, suffer from it, you know, and then over time it can slow you down. You know, power fades and quickness fades. So that for that reason, I agree with you as far as the younger man might be the better man to take it. But you know, on fight night anything can happen. So that's what makes combat sports great.
Yeah, that's like, just like you said. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's MMA or boxing. One punch, one kick, you know, one hold or whatever can change the outcome of the fight in a split second. You know, and you know, that's the beauty part of combat sports, is that, you know, I think that's why people like Mayweather are so successful, because he's been able to fine-tune his skills so well. And, you know, he's been able to sell himself in terms of his personality and marketing and stuff, which doesn't hurt at all. But, you know, just using him as an example, people tune in to watch him lose, and people tune in to watch him win. But at the end of the day, what do they have in common? They're tuning in, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line at the end of the day, is, you know, like, yeah, you want to have talent because you want to be able to back it up, but you also want to be able to draw some money.
You got to draw in fans, asses in seats, and eyes on the screens. So
exactly.
All right,
just
man.
Just like they said in the 90s, the WCW, when about an episode of Raw, that'll put some asses in seats.
Yeah, that's always. I don't know. That's the formula. The formula. I do, man, and you know I'm a WCW guy. I do DDP yoga. I mean, come on.
There it is, man. Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. Fuck, man. WCW. That's definitely my. That was definitely my. That's definitely my era for pro wrestling. But just to your point about as far as the formula in combat sports, they can always take a page from pro wrestling to put asses in seats. For sure.
It's true. I mean, just to, you know, piggyback off of that, I'd like to know if we can just touch on the subject, just because it's kind of recent news. Do you think? I mean, it looks like it's going to happen, but do you think Ronda Rousey is going to jump into the WWE? Because I mean, she did show up a couple.
She cut that promo, but it wasn't as well received as they'd hoped. I mean, her girl is in Shayna Baszler's already seems to be signed with them, but I don't think it's something that they're gonna marry, just because Actually, there's a pro wrestler around here that I'm familiar with. He goes by the name Brimstone. He's got a podcast called Grindhouse Radio out of Long Island, and he saw that, and he was just like, you know, if she's gonna try to do this, she needs to learn to cut a better promo because that whole thing was horrible. So I don't think it's something that's gonna I don't know. It might have legs, but you never know. The thing with pro wrestling, you never know what they're trying to throw at you. You know, some things disappear, some things pop out of nowhere.
In terms of, I mean, I'm assuming it's Vegas, but in terms of for MMA, what's the best city in terms of audience? Like, people just love MMA. Like, what in the United States? What do you think? Because I'm asking because if the pro wrestling WWE is in a different cities like every week, you know, for their Monday night Raws and, you know, stuff like that. So, or their pay-per-views on Sundays. Like, if they have her show up, I mean, in terms of a marketing aspect, business aspect, you know, if you're going to have her show up in person to one of those live shows on television for the first time, I would try to make it in a city that, there's a lot of big population of, you know, wrestling fans and stuff, but also MMA fans, because there's people probably who are just going to buy tickets to that pro wrestling show because she's getting advertised because of it. They're like, oh, well, shit, like, I want to see what this is about, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I honestly, I mean, like New York City is the media capital of the world, so anything you do there is always considered big. Right. But as far as I mean, I honestly feel, and I'm from Jersey, so in New Jersey, it's sorry, my phone's buzzing. Hold on one second.
It's all right. The beauty of live recording. So popular over there in Jersey.
Yeah. So anyway, MMA has roots in New Jersey. So in that sense, I wish, or in this area, you know, New York and New Jersey. If you read that book, Raw Combat, you can read all about it. The one by Jim Genia. I think I told you about it. There's a review about it on my website, the Blogboard Jungle. But to answer your question, I feel like it's actually, for MMA, I think out by you it's more popular because you guys have more regional things going on. Midwest and in the West, honestly, I think it's because the weather's better and it's easier for guys to train and cut weight and you know, not have anything stop them from getting their grind on to get to a fight night. So if it happens, it's got to happen out either like in California, out by you somewhere, or at least in like Nevada, Arizona. It's got to happen in that area, not around here, unless they did it in the in the better times of the year here in the Northeast, because they've done a couple of WrestleManias here. WWE comes to Madison Square Garden and Barclays, but they usually do it when the weather's nice. So I feel the chance of it happening is more likely by you than by me.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I mean, like you said, doing it in Madison Square Garden would be huge. You know, the New York crowd is pretty lively over there.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. So but, all right, man. I mean,
before we end this up, I don't think I asked. I don't know if you revealed it, but for the Canelo Triple G fight, who do you think is going to win? I mean, you asked me, but you know, I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, that's turning the tables on me. That's good.
Turning the tables. Turn the tables.
You know what though? But I honestly like. So if I have to go by recent performances, and I actually talked about this with Hector Franco over at Front Proof. If we go by recent performances, I would say, and I'm not being biased because of the whole Mexican thing. I think Canelo, only because Triple G his last bout was here in New York, and I mean he won, but it wasn't like the Triple G that people, was it Daniel Jacobs was his opponent?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So his performance wasn't like Triple G that most people know. That was the biggest complaint I heard about him, and from what I saw, I agreed. So if we're going by past performances, I would say I want to go with Canelo, but I know a lot of people are going Triple G just because of his career as a whole. So, but for me, I mean, I'm gonna go full Mexican and stick with Canelo.
Oh, full Mexican. I got it.
So that's where I'm at. All right, man. So just before we close it, let folks know where they can find you, find your work and your interviews and all that stuff.
Sure. I mean, like you said at the beginning, I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Z as in zebra boxing news. I also publish personally on medium.com. You can find me on medium.com/@Danny DANNYZ_boxing. All the work I publish, it doesn't matter what website or outlet it is, it always goes on there. And I always give credit to where it was originally published. And then I also, you can also find my work on Supreme Boxing Inc. INC.com. That's SupremeBoxingInc.com. But you can find some of my work there. I just recently joined them. And yeah, I mean, it's covering the sport, man. I don't really ever view it as like a hassle because, like I love the sport, of the sport of boxing. I mean, just like, you love the sport of MMA, like it's just like we enjoy it so much that, we take our spare time to write our little thoughts and opinions and report news about it.
Definitely, man. All right, man. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time to talk, and I'll let you know when this goes up. And good luck, man. Good luck watching the fights and everything. Hopefully the whoever you want to win wins.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, hey, regardless of who wins, if you want to do a post-fight podcast for this, after the fight, just to kind of see what our opinions are after the fight, just let me know and I'm willing to jump on.
I will. I don't know how soon I'm going to catch it though, because while that's going on, I'm watching UFC Fight Night. David Branch and Luke Rockhold, some middleweight.
Oh wow!
There's some middleweight drama going on there. Yeah,
that should be a good matchup. Yeah,
that's a really good matchup. That's a real good matchup. I'll give you my quick who I want on that one, and it's David Branch. So, but yeah.
By
all
what?
right, man.
But well, really quick. By what though? Like KO.
You know what? David Branch is so well-rounded. I think he can take it however he wants. He's calling for a knockout, though. Yeah, he's been calling for a knockout, so I'll go with what his prediction and saying he's going to get the finish by a knockout. Their main event, so yeah. I mean, hey, the guy's a double champion from he was middleweight and light heavyweight champion over at World Series of Fighting. Nobody beat those belts. Beat him for those belts. He just gave them up because he got in the UFC. So.
Wow.
The guy's got a lot of reason to believe what he believes, and I'm with him because he's a Renzo Gracie guy, so you know how I am about that. So
yeah, I gotcha. No, I get it.
So all right, man. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
All right, y'all. That's pretty much it for today. I know it was a big one, but it was a big news day. And we got, again, busy fight weekend. Lots of fights coming up. Once again, thank you for listening. If you'd like to help out this podcast and anything else that we got coming, check out theblogboardjungle.com. When you want to make an Amazon purchase, click any of those Amazon links, and you'll be helping your boy out while helping me bring you some hot news for your ear holes. Also check out Daniel Zaldivar's YouTube channel. And as promised, because of the big Saturday we got coming, one of our listeners and Anchor Station music creator, Jesse, he has this Anchor Station, Jesse and Music. Go check him out. He did call in. We're going to close this out with the one he sent in called Let's Go Canelo. So thank you, Jesse, for doing that. Much appreciated. And thank you all for listening. Please check out all the other stuff regarding John Jones and Daniel Cormier at frontproofmedia.com. And I'll holler at you after the fights. This was the MMA Afterthought podcast. Peace.
The audio you just heard was recorded in Anchor. Learn more at anchor.fm.